Good morning. Now, one of the great things about this job is the passion of our viewers and our audience. They really care about issues and they take the nation's problems very personally. You can tell from the fire in their voice when they call to talk about corruption or the economy or healthcare or football or any of the numerous issues that touch our lives on a personal level. Sometimes this passion spills over into personal attacks and insults. Now, I confess I can understand how this happens in some cases. When frustration over long-standing hardships begin to take a toll, a person can snap and say something unnecessarily caustic, often regretting it immediately after. In other cases, though, it is quite deliberate. The aim is either to make the person feel the punitive sting of your tongue, or to impress your audience and demonstrate your wit by putting together words in a clever way to form the most memorably scathing remarks possible. We see this on social media all the time. People put up posts often about politics or celebrities or other national issues, and the comments that follow are all full of acidic abuse. A manful will insult each other's mothers just to demonstrate their disagreement on an issue that has nothing to do with mothers. Belated Happy Mother's Day to everyone, by the way. But we don't do it to each other as much as we do it to public figures, celebrities, politicians, journalists. We all get it in the neck from people who disagree with us for one reason or the other. The president probably gets more abuse than anyone else in the country. Of course, we all have great expectations from him, and we all want him to do more to address our problems. But I wonder if what we want is for our president to do better, which is likely to achieve that result? Insults or criticism? And what's the difference anyway? Well, to insult is to speak to or treat with disrespect or scornful abuse, according to the Oxford Dictionary. To criticize is to indicate the faults of someone or something. As you can see, the two are not the same, not even related. But more importantly, one is aimed at breaking down, while the other can be used for building up. When you're engaged in a debate with someone who doesn't see your point, will insulting them suddenly make your argument clear to them? So why do it? President Akufo-Addo is by no means the only leader in the world who has to deal with insults. Donald Trump has been called a racist. Boris Johnson has been called a toffee-nosed elitist. Duterte has been called a shameless thief. Emmanuel Macron was called a spineless coward by a member of his own party. Even Nelson Mandela was once called a murdering terrorist. It makes you wonder how such men have managed to handle all of these insults without taking them personally. Well, the answer is rather simple. They don't take them personally because the people insulting them don't know them personally. It's only their public persona that the world sees and not their personal character. And since you can't have an opinion on what you don't know, you can't really insult the personal character of a person you've never met or never known. Leaders and public figures draw this distinction, and that is why insults generally don't have much of an effect on them. But don't forget that they are human, and there's a limit to what any human can take. We have established that insults don't build, they break. So if you want a better leader, then be careful how you insult them. One day, they might crack, and you'll end up with a broken leader, not a better one. I think it's safe to say that anyone who insults another person is not seeking their improvement. So, if you're not happy with the president, don't insult him, criticize him. He's bound to find that far more useful. Also, if you are or have ever been a victim of online insults or trolling, just remember that the people who insult you don't know you. So it can't be you they're insulting. Don't take it personal. My name is Kojo Yankson, and I wish we'd all be more careful with our tongues, because one bee sting may not hurt a bear, but 1,000 bee stings can kill it. Good morning, Ghana.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News with me, Mapita Sibidi. In our first story, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has laid out government's 5-point plan to address challenges facing the economy. It includes the implementation of $200 million jobs and skills program and the immediate provision of potable water to areas in critical need, especially in urban areas. He was speaking at a news conference on Sunday in what appeared to be a response to the hashtag FixTheCountry movement.
This is not a government that is working in reflex. The $200 million programs for economic transformation and jobs and skills started planning this some 2-3 years ago with the World Bank and finally coming to fruition now. So certainly is a government that has always had a clarity on the plan that we have for the nation, and we can see the strength of the economy 2017 to 2020, an ability because of the robustness to be able to handle 2020, and a continuum with the Obatampa program with projects like these which were already pre-thought of to go on. And so I think at this point in time you talk about a Kumfi, but there's 181 companies well on the road with regards to 1D, 1F that we continue to encourage to support. These are all, I mean, I think we gave some numbers for government compensation, wages, etc. on the public sector, and I think we are stretched to the seams, and really for us as a right-to-center government, it's always been an issue of strengthening the private sector for them to create that access to jobs and funds to do that.
Part of the directives given by organizers of the hashtag FixTheCountry movement was for members to make noise wherever they may be. Though organizers may have taken the protest off the streets onto online platforms following a court injunction secured by the state, it appears some found a subtle way to demonstrate at the Black Star Square. Latif Idris, who was at the Independence Square at the time of the planned protest, reports some motor riders rode through the heavily secured location and tooted their horns.
So on the calendar of the organizers of the Fix the Country movement, today, Sunday, 9th May 2021, is supposed to be Black Sunday, a day they have taken, I'm sure, in their diaries to hit the streets to demonstrate to the administration about what they describe as the harsh economic realities. But here at the Independence Square, we cannot find a single protester. It is past midday and there is not a single protester here at the Independence Square. We understand that the organizers and the prospective protesters have now taken their protest online, where they are venting their anger at the administration. Here at the Independence Square, the police administration and in fact, that is the Greater Accra Police Command, is heavily represented here at the Black Star Square. I can count not less than 15 police vehicles, including 7 crowd or riot control vehicles. And as for the number of police personnel on the ground, I cannot put a number to it. Why? Because they keep moving. They keep moving on the ground, they keep moving in their pickup trucks, combing the area to ensure that no protester walks in here to do what the court has banned them from doing. But if you look around, you have the ordinary individuals walking about. Some are wearing black. You remember the directive given by the organizers of the movement is that people should wear black and come out in their numbers and demonstrate. That was before the injunction was placed on. You will find people wearing black, sitting under the, close to the Nationalism Park. They are wearing their blacks. They are seated under the trees in the lovers' bench, having their own time, whiling away time. And if you come to the Independence Square proper, you would find also individuals walking about, going about their own duties and the police is not stopping anybody asking any questions. The place is calm. The police are relaxed. Some are seated in their vans. There are those who are standing on the ground and those who are combing the area, those who have also taken off their uniform and are also mingling with the general population for intelligence. So the situation here is that the hashtag FixTheCountry movement protest has not happened, at least on the ground, but has gone virtual. The protest may have moved online, but I tell you what, here at the Independence Square, once in a while, I see motor riders like this particular one passing through, tooting their horn in a manner that suggests defiance. We do not know if this forms part of the planned protest from the Independence Square here in Accra. This is Latif Idris reporting for JoyNews.
Away from that, there are the human shopping baskets in Ghana's markets, and statistics say there are over 10,000 of them in Accra alone. In the first of a 5-part series, Justice Bedu follows Valentina Roberts, a 14-year-old Kayaye, as he tells the story of the growing number of Accra's headquarters. Today, Valentina wakes up to work, dreading the pain and abuse ahead.
Roberts here. Valentina. Besides me, my space will now fully. I could do a lot of Magana, I'm a Tessa, a moment to man. Lies you for it. I'm to my much of that. The sometimes those who afford to go 50 or 60. So I got my lunch home traffic. When you then I be the Tamale station. I be cocoa board. The my lunch home and can. Like none more was no now that's for sorry. Not because someone was on my sorry. Or has you could put a on in the Buya I could to say. I was a boy. Wouldn't the not pancake more blue way. Also, child of blessings that I'm almost interested. And the one who get a station school is the open for city. And the one who get a cocoa board is a balance of 5 because he don't pay to the go 25. My sister and a black on Valewa, and so I'm very quite down. My son, I would tell a rose, I would tell him a little balance to tell on the home. A payment, and no say obey payment, and to our Usupa movie, Moka Dama, a back of Chonkaya, a Mayo Matarankana, a Concordia, Mayo Matarankana. No, I can go over all smart years you go was the Salo Telebon or Adaha or Papa Apprentice and Doko. And the Babalato, Savolia Maniera Masala movie, a Compaha, a Concochonka, Allah. Amayo Mitela, a Concordia. But that's to my area and Rabalco, Mekoa, Manamo, we have spoken to more Sapapo, and to our market for Kaya, man now I'm a Sacamakia, Moria, Modia, Manamo, no way for 11 old. Maybe I walk on the Moria Concord. No vehicle that Matsaranka was strong in the mouth.
Now, the Ghana National Association of Teachers wants government to provide accommodation for teachers who accept postings to remote areas of the country. The association contends that teachers posted to those places do not have accommodation, and the basic schools built do not have staff common rooms that will promote effective academic activities. At the association's 6th quadrennial delegates conference at the Mfantsiman Municipality, Central Regional Chairman of NATSA, Reverend Isaac Osu, also narrated how teachers suffer after they go on pension because of the meager amount they receive. Richard Kojayako was there and has come through with this report.
The Ghana National Association of Teachers is not happy with how schools are built in the country without staff common rooms. These staff common rooms, they say, are expected to serve as offices for teachers after they are done teaching. What has become a common practice in the absence of that is that teachers now sit under trees and mark the exercises of school pupils. They also make the point that teachers that are posted to remote communities across the country do not have accommodation because provisions have not been made for them. Central Regional Chairman of NAT, Dr. Isaac Owusu, says such developments do not create a conducive environment for academic activities and may affect the output of teachers.
Accommodation for teachers and then our office is becoming a challenge. You see, notably one among them is the Mfantsiman Municipal Education Directorate. My brother, if you look at the building that the director and his staff are dwelling in to work for Mother Ghana, it is an eyesore. You see, teachers have been posted to deep remote areas. Teachers are not getting a place to lay down their head to get enough rest to teach Ghanaian children. And so sometimes we ask ourselves, why is it that the employer, as a matter of fact, the government of Ghana, is putting up school building without adding where the teacher will sleep? We are begging the employer. As for Mfantsiman Education Directorate, the structure is a death trap. And so we are pleading with the authorities in the municipality, the regional minister, and those who matter to come to the aid of Mfantsiman Municipal Directorate to look at their structure and also have a plan for teachers who work at the remote areas. That if you are going to teach in a school that you don't even have a staff common room as a teacher, where do you put your books and mark the children's work?
The regional NAT chairman also spoke about how teachers suffer after they go on pension.
You know, previously we were all under the Senate Act, and we realized that the Senate Act was not helping Ghanaian workers. And so there was a need for us to introduce a new pension act, Act 766. And we thought that that act, the 3-tier pension scheme, came in to rather better the system of the Ghanaian worker, but rather, surprisingly, Senate is supposed to pay past credits for our members who started work before the introduction of the new Pension Act. And a teacher who worked from 1986 to 31st December 2009, the past credit Senate gave to the teacher was 5,000 Ghana cedis. And so if a teacher in this country worked for close to 24 years, and then the Senate will give the said teacher a past credit of 5,000 for 24 years, then we are not safe.
Municipal Chief Executive from Mfantsiman, Kenneth Esuman, indicated that after a thorough study of the situation, the Assembly would factor staff common rooms in all schools that are built. Richard Kojayako, JoyNews, Mfantsiman.
It's supposed to be a nerve-relaxing activity for contestants who represent their schools in the National Science and Maths quiz. But what's meant to be an off-the-cap engagement between the quiz mistress and the contestants on stage could easily become another round of competition that causes upsets, at least for some schools. From Bolgatanga, Manuel Quanting reports on how contestants in the regional qualifiers of the 2021 NSMQ react to "Tell us something about your school."
I'm happy to meet the contestants, and I'm sure you'd also be happy to meet them. So let's meet our contestants. So we'd like to know about your school. Tell us something about your school.
Well, this is a pretty simple request, which should ordinarily elicit a simple response. like these ones.
Bogatanga Girls Senior High School is one of the prominent senior high schools in Upper East Region, Bogatanga, and it is located at the Bogatanga municipality, precisely Zanre. It was basically a community boarding school, and it was now transformed into a women college. And then in 1973, it was now turned into senior high school. And our motto is unity, equality, and then patriotism.
Bogatanga Senior School was established in the year 1970 and is located at the Talensi district, specifically in Kogu, Upper East Region. And we go by the motto, to the glory of God and honor of Ghana. And we are the pride of the East.
Wonderful.
But as the first week of competition in the regional qualifiers of the 2021 National Science and Maths Quiz will reveal, tell us about your school could be a really confusing request sometimes. Like this time when Sandima SHTS was meeting Zoko SHS, Fumbisi SHS, and Boku SHS.
It's a school that don't give up easily. It is a school that don't give up easily.
You don't give up easily? Yeah. So where is your school? Is it a mess school? Those are the things you'd want to know.
Please come again.
Where is your school? Where can I find your school?
It's in Zoko.
Oh, there were more.
So Abraham and Elisha, kindly tell me about Zwarungu Senior High School. Anything about your school that you'd want me to know.
Zwarungu Secondary School is one of the senior high schools which is found in the Bolga East region.
It is a school which is situated in the Bulsa North district of Sandema.
You can leave the mic. Just leave the mic, yes, and talk.
And it is a mixed school. Our motto is integrity, integrity, patriotism, and knowledge.
But what's the big deal? Probably a question on the mind of contestants from Sirigu SHS when they had to respond on stage. So they went for it, or at least attempted to.
Sirigu Senior High School is a mixed school, and also it's an integrated school. It was established in 2000. The year 2000.
Wonderful. You said it's an integrated school. What does it mean for it to be an integrated school?
Madam, integrated.
Thanks to the quiz mistress, David.
What is different about your school from the others?
Okay, my school, we have visual impaired there. Those who cannot see, they're also there with us in class with we, those who can see.
Oh, okay, so you have challenged people and all. That's wonderful. That's what makes you integrated.
But the contestants from Paga just couldn't be bothered.
Paga Senior High School is a school in Paga.
Somehow, in the Upper East regional qualifiers, the fewer words the contestants had to say about your school, the fewer points they got at the end of the contest. Well, this is not a result of a scientific study or anything like that. What does it matter anyways? If you don't agree, start by telling us about your school. Manuel Cranting, JoyNews, Bogatanga.
And that's how we end the AM News with me, Mapisa CBD. For more news, you can log into myjoyonline.com. The AM show continues with Mama V and Benjamin.
Well, thank you very much. This is how we do it every morning. It's time for us to dig into the papers and, should time permit, the online portals as well. And let me very quickly say a very good morning to Mamavi Owusu Abaji. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben. Well, good morning to our viewers. If you joined us, of course, you missed the AM News. Hopefully you did not. We're going to be sharing a lot more headlines with you this Monday morning. So welcome to our show. Welcome to the review segment. The papers I have, the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Dispatch, the Finder, and the Business and Financial Times.
Okay, I have the Daily Graphic, the Daily Guide, the Ghanaian Publisher, Today newspaper, as well as the Custodian newspaper. I'll be digging into those. So let's quickly start with the Daily Graphic, and it says, take civic education seriously. That's on page 16. It's the NCCE chairperson urging Ghanaians. Madam Kroma, if you take a quick look there, the story actually says the chairperson of the NCCE for civic, that's the National Commission for Civic Education, Ms. Josephine Nkrumah, has urged Ghanaians to take civic education seriously and make the 1992 Constitution a working document in their everyday life. So if I asked you what you could speak of in the Constitution of Ghana, 1992 Constitution to be specific, I mean, I don't know what your answer would be. Some people have a firm grasp of it, maybe because of work, others don't. But there are certain basic things we all should know when it comes to the Constitution. And that sometimes even impacts things that are done to us. A police officer comes to you, wants to take your phone because you are filming something. There are different things that our Constitution speaks of that we all must be abreast of. We're fixing economy. That's according to Mr. Finance Minister. He says interventions are being rolled out to ease the burden of ordinary Ghanaians. And I'm sure over the weekend you heard of him in reaction to the Fix the Country demonstrations and those $200 million and all of those actions that supposedly are going to generate jobs, among others. I'll be digging into the story as the news review progresses. But AU ECOWAS must deal with Chad's crisis. That's according to a former special representative of the United Nations Secretary General. We know that in recent times, as far as Somalia is concerned, our very own former president, John Dramani Mahama, has been sent there. So different dimensions to the turmoil on the continent. On the international page, Macron calls on U.S. to drop vaccine export bans, and U.S. Navy seizes huge weapons cache in Arabian Sea. It says a huge cache of illicit Russian and Chinese weapons from a stateless vessel sailing in international waters of the northern Arabian Sea actually was seized. You can check out more details on page 9 of the news paper. Let's go to the middle spread of the paper now. Well, maybe an article you could check out by Anis Hafa. Before we go to that, it's on page 28. Overdose of religion, superstition, and deceit. Anis Hafa sharing his thoughts there. Then there's on page 41, it's actually the spread, 24 to 41. Review close of polls time. Some discussants have been urging the Electoral Commission to review the time. Of course, last night we had that interaction with one of the deputy chairpersons of the Electoral Commission, my colleague Emefa Apau, interacting there with Dr. Bosman Asari. So on the back page now, let's collectively fight hooliganism. That's according to a minister, the Minister of Youth and Sports to be specific. And finally, wrapping up with the league table, Midiama 2nd, Great Olympics 3rd, Karela 4th, Hartevok 5th, but the point difference not too much. Hartevok on 34 points in 5th place, Kumasi Asante Kotoko Krobia with 41 points in 1st place. The least placed team, Inter Allies, with 19 points. That's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper.
And I will come in with the Business and Financial Times newspaper. On the front page, Ghana Card CID databases to be merged, according to the Vice President. And this is to enable employees background checks. And according to details of this, we're expected to re-register our SIM again. I will tell you why. Also, the banks are being roped into using the Ghana Card as the primary identification card for all their customers. Again, the Ghana Card has been merged with the SNIT, National Health Insurance and Tax Identification Number of the Ghana Revenue Authority, a move which has seen an increase in the database of these institutions, according to the details shared in the paper. Back on the front page, industry becomes pandemic's biggest casualty in economy as it contracts while agric and services grow. So if you check out details of this story as well, we know that for a very long time, the services sector has been the main driver of the growth for the economy in many years, and also the largest sector. It saw its slowest growth since 2014, recording 1.5% as against 7.6% in 2019. I'll come to agriculture, but let me also take you through, and this is the Ghana Statistical Service publishing these figures, by the way, as captured in the Business and Financial Times newspaper. So the second largest contributor to the economy, industry, recorded a 3.6% contraction in the pandemic year, a sharp nosedive from the 6.4% growth recorded the previous year, and the worst performance ever since the GDP figures were rebased in 2014. Agric, the sector often neglected by both government and the financial sector, pulled a surprise by growing at an impressive rate of 7.4%, the best it has ever seen since the rebasing year. More of that, and then Professor Quarty upbeats. It will surmount challenges. His version or his piece added to the stories also in the paper. Now, be cautious in implementing lifestyle audits in AML and CFT fights. According to lecturer, says focus should be on suspicious transactions. And this is the anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism, terrorist financing, and tax evasion fights. That's what the lecturer says we should be cautious whilst implementing the lifestyle audits on these. On the back page of the Business and Financial Times, the One District, One Factory concept to create jobs to improve livelihoods of the people in districts is making major strides in the automobile industry. Well, they've got a collaboration going on. Full stories on the back page of the paper. And then nominees shortlisted for Ghana Entrepreneur and Corporate Executive Awards 2021. Details of that in the paper today. That's it for the Business and Financial Times.
Well, let's dig into the Daily Guide newspaper now. And PURC to compensate consumers for Dumso. So if you've been suffering Dumso, well, there might be some relief coming your way. And just to get into some details in that story, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission says it has begun the process of ascertaining the liabilities and possibility of compensation for consumers in recognition of any loss occasioned by the recent erratic power supply, popularly called Dumso. According to the Commission, this is being done in accordance with its regulatory processes and has consequently called on consumers to report any case of damaged equipment to the nearest ECG NETCO office for the appropriate action, failing which such a report may be forwarded to the PURC for redress. I find this very interesting because people have complained of gadgets of different sorts being, compromised and all of that. So if a number of people are coming to you, my 55-inch LED TV has gone bad and all of that, can we really foot the bill? Well, that's what the PURC has been saying, though. This was in a statement released Friday. But in other stories, MP's double salary bounces back. That's actually on page 3. You would recall the case of Ayariga. Well, it has emerged that the case involving former ministers and appointees in the erstwhile John Dramani Mahama led NDC government who were caught in the alleged double salary scandal has not been dropped. Daily Guide sources say a docket is being worked on once again following concerns that the privileged in society, particularly politicians, are committing offences with impunity. And Martin Amidu comes into the picture. And of course, we know quite a number of them who, were cited. The list of ministers, when the police commenced investigations, most of the ex-ministers cited the honored the invitation of the police to explain issues to them. Emmanuel Amakofibua, MP for Lembele, who also doubled as former Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Nilaye Afote Agbo, and among others. So this matter seems to be coming back. I'll wrap up in the Daily Guide before I go to the back page, hopefully. Dad says boy 6 is wizard. and a 6-year-old boy. I'm focusing on this story because of some of these developments and how children are singled out for unfair treatment. A 6-year-old boy has been left to his fate in a village in the eastern region after his father claimed he was a wizard. The father, Benjamin Tete, claims a fetish priest told him that the little boy was a wizard and he inherited it from his late mother. The boy, who cannot speak, was neglected, starved, and dumped in an uncompleted mud structure for months at Achiasa, a village in the Ayensuano district of the eastern region, by his own father. And let's not forget that it's only how many months ago that we had, that instance of an old woman, very old woman, being, brutally beaten. Another incident followed that, I think, sometime last year. And here we are with more of them. These are some of the issues we ought to be taking up. And hopefully, Honorable Adjoa Safo will be looking at some of these instances and reacting to them. On the back page, Otumfuo marks milestone with May 9 remembrance. And he's pictured there with Herbert Mensah, former head of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And then Chelsea spoils City Party as Aguero begs for penalty miss. So that's it with the Daily Guide newspaper.
Let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper next. On the front page, government response to fix the country demands will require $10 billion to fix roads, says Finance Minister. First Lady, Ghanaians mark Mother's Day. Muslim students fast in Bruhaha, GCBC, CCG throw weights behind Wesley Girls Senior High School. So that's the Christian Council of Ghana. Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, a picture of him with the headline on the front page of the paper. We did not clone mobile phones. National Security Ministry, Paris Fix the Country conveners allegation. If you're monitoring news file on Saturday closely, then you would know that this issue came up. There was a statement later on issued even after the Attorney General spoke on news file on Saturday, denying that phones had been cloned during a meeting with conveners of Fix the Country. Let's see in the center spread of the paper. Well, essentially, details of the stories on the front page. On the back page is sports. I will leave that to Muftal to come and do details of sports. So I guess that, no, not quite. Let me go to page 3, Ghanaian Times newspaper. 2 crime-related stories. Not quite, well, I think is one which is a robber, an armed robber believed to be a member of a gang that allegedly specialized in breaking into financial institutions, warehouses, and companies. His name is Musa Adamu, also known as Adams, has been arrested by the Tema Regional Police Command. And then the Foods and Drugs Authority in the Volta region has seized and destroyed unwholesome drugs and some other substandard products worth 10,000 Ghana cedis imported illegally by traders. And then this story about communities affected by tidal waves in Ketu South opting for coastal protection projects. Details of all of that on page 3 in the paper. I guess that will be it for the Ghanaian Times.
Let's take a look at the Ghanaian publisher now. Akufo-Addo is fixing the country. That's according to the CVM. So different viewpoints on this, but it was charged on social media over the weekend. And as Latif Idris, my colleague, reported, some people still, went, I wouldn't want, maybe lurking in the neighborhood, and people expressing their sentiments on social media. Zoom Lion girl grabs top GIJ award. But this one, everyone is talking about it. $200 million jobs and skills program coming. That's according to the finance minister. Apparently, it's been in the pipeline for a while, and it's only now coming to the fore. But what will be the impact of all of this, and how will those, crying out, fix the country, respond? We'll find out. We dig into that matter this morning, actually. No woman will be left behind. That's according to Sarah Adjoa Safo. That's the gender minister. And very quickly, she says she has extended warm felicitations to all mothers on the occasion of Mother's Day. And she congratulated all mothers for their resilience, tenacity, hard work, unwavering love and commitment towards the welfare of their families. And she pledged her commitment and that of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection to continue to work and create an enabling environment for all Ghanaian women to ensure that none is left behind in the developmental agenda of the dear nation. Well, that's a whole lot more that we have to do. Just last week, was it Thursday, I was having that interaction with women. It's not just media across the board. Women are lagging behind, and a lot more ought to be done to empower women. The rot at Bost that went unpunished. Check out details of that on page 2 of the paper. But I just wanted to take a brief look at page 2, where government has denied phone cloning allegations by FixTheCountry movement. The story says the Ministry of National Security refuted yesterday allegations that it had cloned the phone of one of the conveners of the FixTheCountry movement. A statement signed and issued by Information Minister Kojo Fonkroma said the phone cloning allegation was false and baseless. The statement was in reaction to a claim by one Oliver Bakavomao, one of the conveners of the FixTheCountry campaign on Saturday, May 8, 2021, that the national security operatives had unlawfully cloned the Android phone. I spoke to Kojo Fonkroma on Saturday for the news at 6 o'clock, and he actually made mention of the fact that if government wanted to engage in any such thing, there were legal processes to be followed, and they could have followed that. Of course, on the other hand, on Newsfile on the same Saturday, earlier in the day, Mr. Baka Vomao had said that, you know, owing to certain circumstances, what had happened with the person, the only person in their team who had carried an Android phone, the bit about who was carrying a phone and whether they were not carrying a phone, some things that had followed from there, and how subsequently calling a certain number now showed monitoring on that specific phone and how the phone had to be flashed. So we'll look at the different dimensions and find out maybe, hopefully, who exactly is telling the truth in this matter. But Mr. Bakavomo joins us this morning for a conversation. Look forward to that one.
Let's do the Finder newspaper real quick. On the front page on COVID-19, rollout for second doses to begin May 19. Ghana records 10,684 newborn jaundice cases in 2020.
That's a big worry. That's
that's it.
That's a big one.
Absolutely. So that's Dr. Isabella Sego Moses, the Deputy Director of the Family Health Division of the Ghana Health Service, making that revelation and saying that Ghana recorded over 10,000 jaundice cases in newborn nationwide in 2020. Now, jaundice is that disease that normally occurs when the color of the skin and eyes of the baby begin to look yellowish within the first, they say, 28 days of birth. There was one quick one also on the vaccines. So, you know, we've taken delivery of some 350,000 doses.
And we must use them as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. So we will begin Wednesday, May 19, administering the second doses of it. So if you received your first dose, you're still well within the 8 to 12 weeks, you're scheduled to take your second dose. So get prepared mentally.
So the third of this month was actually 8 weeks. So I'm slowly getting into my ninth. In fact, this is my 9th week now.
Okay, so you're
because the third, so it's another week. Today is the 10th, so it's 9 weeks since I got mine.
Yeah, we're still well within the relevant period, I guess. And then Ms. Anthony Akoto Ampao, lead counsel of President Akufo-Addo, remember? During the election petition, where he says the EC must review processes leading to 2020 election results collation. Okay. Details of that in the paper. He says, I believe that the EC itself and other stakeholders need a closer review of the actual processes and procedures that they took in arriving at the final collation of results in the 2020 elections, and to see whether there is the need for some reforms. His contribution to a roundtable conversation by the CDD. That's it for the Finder.
All right, so today newspaper, Kofi Amwa causes big row over Ponzi scheme. Who's guilty? That's the question in there. And you can check out details of that in the Today newspaper. They say they stand for truth and enlightenment. Well, hashtag FixTheCountry campaign, Ghana's Arab Spring, pictured there, Albert Kandapad, Minister of National Security. So the story by Atta Kweku Bwedi says there is no gainsaying the fact that Ghana has enjoyed a relative peace since 1992, when the country chose the democratic path as a means of vehicle to run her affairs. It goes on to talk about the latest developments to hit the current administration, which was that social media campaign which started over a week ago with a call on government to fix the country. And it says the campaign has since gathered momentum with many Ghanaians from all walks of life doing what we know. But the question in there, this campaign is somehow similar to what started in Tunisia in 2010. And so there is advice that government should listen to the calls of the people and address their issues before things get out of hand. And we've had a number of prominent personalities in this country go down the same route, or thinking same, saying that, look, allow especially the youth to express themselves so there will not be an explosion, so to speak, in quote, because when emotions are pent up, it doesn't bode well. So that's it basically for the Today newspaper.
Let's go through the last newspaper that I have, which is the Daily Dispatch newspaper. On the front page, Minister of Lands disbands unauthorized anti-galamsey task force. Not quite, because according to a statement that was issued, and that's where the story was couched from, it said that it has come to the attention of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources that certain unauthorized task forces and or security operatives have taken advantage of the ongoing operation halt to harass small-scale miners across the country. The operations of such unauthorized task forces and or parallel security outfits should cease and be disbanded with immediate effect. It does not translate into being disbanded necessarily. Well, the load shedding full chat has been out for a while. I guess the newspaper is reminding all of us, but I have been going off. So I really don't know what's going to happen today, because effective today, 10th of May, what was published is going to be taking effect to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. So you can check it out. And then Eid-ul-Fitr prayers cannot be held in large congregations is a reminder. The National Chief Imam is reminding all Muslims that we're still in COVID, the restrictions are still in place, so no large gatherings, like parks and so on. Okay, we have to do myjournline.com then. Okay, very quickly though, I just wanted to make note of this. Mr. Razak Kwadwo, it appears he speaks on everything nowadays, practically everything. He is the founder and president of CVM, and he says Akufo-Addo is fixing Ghana better than Mahama. But I've seen him in the papers a lot, some papers a lot nowadays, and he seems to have an opinion, be an expert on quite a number of things. Kudos to him. But the story I'll highlight, Parliament vets deputy ministers on June the 2nd. Ablakwa has been replaced. Let's do myjoyonline.com very quickly. So angry Ghanaian youth take Fix the Country protest to social media after court injunction. There was a joke yesterday that the police, well, they were black anyway. They decided to go to the Independence Square and do the demo themselves. Government will address issues raised by Fix the Country conveners. That's from the finance minister. Ghanaians can testify to how EC excellently executed election 2020. That's Bosman Asari, the speaking to Emefa Apau. And then on the Fix the Country, mere speeches won't cut it. People want something substantive. That's protesters responding to the finance minister after that presser yesterday. Well, plenty of other stories on myjournline.com. At least Fix the Country got the finance minister to update us, didn't they? So, something positive coming out of the Fix the Country, if you like. And now at least we know about processes that would be followed in case any person's phone has to be tapped, the right processes to be followed. So we all can beware. The betting is not on us, though, because we make some other people live very comfortably so they can fix the issues in the country. Yeah. Most definitely. Well, it's time now for us to move aside and allow Muftau and his crew to come your way with sports. Interestingly, my Lakers won. It's been a long time, Charlie. Anyway, sports is up next Tuesday.
"20 years ago, about 127 football fans lost their lives when they attended the Accra Sports Stadium to watch a Ghana Premier League match involving Hearts of Oak and Asante Kotoko. The 20th anniversary has been commemorated by the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the National Sports Authority. In the English Premier League, the champagne for a Premier League title celebration at the blue side of Manchester continued to stay in the fridge because Chelsea went to the Etihad and handed Pep Guardiola's Manchester City a 2-1 defeat. We also have stories coming from the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Ghana Football Association about the intent of the football governing body to go for a campaign in Europe, despite FIFA postponing the World Cup 2022 qualifiers. I am Muftau Nabila Ablai and this is AM Sports. First, let's start from the 20th anniversary of the May 9 disaster in 2001. The Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, he has called for zero tolerance at Ghana Premier League centers to hooliganism. Speaking at the 20th anniversary of the Black Wednesday, where 127 football fans lost their lives in a league match involving Hearts of Oak and Asante Kotoko, Mr. Yusuf warned that commemorating the dead should serve as a warning to the living and that never again should such incident ever happen in the country's football.
While I acknowledge the general good comportment of our fans at our various league centers, reports of scores of hooliganism at football centers in recent times is quite disturbing. We cannot commemorate May 9th every year when our football continue to register cases of violence, and even if it is in isolated cases. It is incumbent on all of us to aggressively pursue and ensure zero tolerance of hooliganism in our game. And that is the way we can truly pay tribute to our departed colleagues. It should be a collective responsibility, and I wish to appeal to all stakeholders to put in effort to ensure that we nip hooliganism in the bud. On the part of our government, we will continue to invest in infrastructure to ensure that our various stadia are safe enough for football and sports fans. I want to use this opportunity to appeal to all sports-loving Ghanaians to exhibit discipline at our various stadia to foresaw an occurrences of any unfortunate incident again. Government will continue to put in mechanism to ensure that our various stadiums are safe enough to host our ever-cherished games. On a high point of this solemn moment is the realization that in 20 years, there have not been a repeat of such tragedy. A situation I have thanked the Almighty Allah for that. Another high point is the information that some of the children of our departed colleagues have been able to realize their lifetime dream in the absence of their loved ones.
Herbert Mensah, he was the chief executive officer of Asante Kotoko when the incident happened and carried some of the bodies to the hospital. He said remembering the day should not be a lip service, but it should be contribution to those who lost their loved ones.
Because we don't just celebrate on May 9th. What we do is throughout the year, we can't help everybody, we don't know everybody, but certainly we fly the flag and make sure that everybody never forgets. And those families that we've been close to, and you build up friendships and bonds with people. Because with a tragedy like that, you have to be so insensitive, not to want to reach out to the families of those that have passed, to spend time with them, to see how they've developed. So we've seen many children grow, some born, others finish school, some graduate. We've seen the families develop, and that has been such a special thing for me and for the others. The May 9 victims, thank you. Ghana thanks you. And all I can say is that I wish everybody well. The struggle continues. It's not over. 20 years we've been doing it. We will continue. We've been accompanied by flood victims. We've been accompanied by atomic blast victims. We've been involved in Save a Child projects, the physically infirm with DESO and Auntie Mavis. And I say thank you to everybody. I really do from the bottom of my heart.
And may the souls of those 127 who died continue to rest in peace. And talking of Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak, yesterday they were in action in the Ghana Premier League match day 23. Asante Kotoko had to come from a goal down to beat Dreams FC by 3-1, whilst Hearts of Oak handed King Faisal FC a 2-1 beating.
A little bit of him, but for me it was too soft.
Penalty to Kotoko. It's Ganiyu. And just like the first penalty, goalkeeper went one way, the ball went the other. Lays on the pass, and it's Kotoko tearing away. Could this be the third goal of the afternoon? Andy! Strong challenge now. Kotoko come forward. Opportunity for goal number 3. And it's there.
And look at him. Wonderful pass.
Junior start was a bit casual. Pepra flicks it onto Zubeiru. Is a penalty? Nope. Wow. Now Salifu Ibrahim looks for Bani again. Would this be the opener? Awesome. Awesome. Takes on the defender, sees Salifu in a good space and doesn't stop there. Continues to make the run. No offside yet. Lovely dink from Salifu into him. It's not selfish. Links up well with Obin Junior. No offside. Ibrahim Salifu up against Danlad Ibrahim. Now Daniel Bania will score into the empty net. It's a second for the Phobians. Look at the ball right over the top. No offside here. No offside whatsoever. And so unselfish of him. He sets up Bania. Sees Bania arriving and just teases him.
Dreams FC coach Vladislav Vrij, he accused the referees of aiding his team's defeat. He said he prepared his team so well, but the 3 men in black aided his team's loss. And for that of Asante Kotoko Mariano Barreto, he believes that the attitude of his players was crucial in their coming back to win this fixture.
You know, football is very interesting. It's very interesting, and they have 11 against 11 players. And you have some player on the bench, and they are, because to game be better game, they call some people to help them. They are in black, you know, to help them to be better the game. And that wasn't happened today. I am so sad because me as a coach train every day, live for football. When I wake up, I think about football. When I go to sleep, I think about football, about my player, about formation. I always sometimes make mistake, but I want on the pitch player to decide who is going to win. And I'm so proud of my players. I'm so proud of my players. They play amazing game with character, with brave. Of course that we did a lot of mistakes. Okay, doesn't matter. And me as a coach, I should tell you that we in last third we didn't be good. It is true, but still doesn't matter. Let players to decide who is going to win.
We feel too much problems. They come here, they know our key points in the first half. We feel too much problems. Unfortunately, we took a goal. It's a stupid penalty, but it's a penalty, no doubts. But we didn't fall down. We didn't give up. It was in a hard moment. We start to remember what's happened with Mediama. But this is why we are working hard to try to solve these problems. And we equalize. And in second half, I think we create such number of chance of goals. We have 2 other chance of goal when Kumi comes alone, even when Ganyu have a shot. But it was too much to Dreams. I think they didn't deserve because they was fantastic in the pitch.
Well, you're still here with us on the AM show. We've got a conversation coming up. It's actually an assessment of how schools have coped with the virus. Benjamin Akapo visited the youngsters' school here in Kokomlemle, and here's his report.
It's been called the new normal, living in the midst of COVID-19. COVID-19 came, we saw it, we are battling it, and we shall conquer it, but not just yet. How have schools dealt with the COVID-19 situation in terms of parents, in terms of their children, the pupils, and even in terms of teachers, the teaching experience? We find out as we get into the Youngsters International School here in Kokomlemle. Come with me. It's been over a year now since COVID hit the entire world, and it's had quite an impact on the schooling community as well. But just how much of an impact? We interact right now with the headmaster of the Youngsters International School, William Osa J. Tell us briefly, what has the impact of COVID been on school life at the Youngsters International School?
Thank you. As usual, school life has changed drastically because usually when we come to school in the mornings, after observing silence period, we come out for morning assemblies. Now it's no longer there, and that is a challenge because there are some announcements. When you meet the entire school, you have to give it out, and it transcends, everybody gets it. But now you have to go around class by class to do that, and that is a bit of a challenge. Secondly, parents too are not allowed to even enter the classrooms to interact with teachers, and that one has also been of a great challenge. Now, when we go out for break, we cannot play around as we do all the time, and that one has impacted too negatively on us. For example, we have parents, they will not understand why they shouldn't even enter the compound. You try to explain to them, they won't budge. They will still want to do what the old things they do, and when you stand by it, they will think that you are just becoming too much, and that is of a bit of a challenge to us.
In terms of learning proper, what is the implication of COVID and all these restrictions? So what have they meant? How much of an impact have they had?
Thank you. Usually, we just ended our first term, and we have come. And going through their report cards and stuff like that, you will see that it has really worried us because most learners have lost it. We're trying as much as possible to bring them up, and it hasn't been easy at all. So, seriously speaking, it is a big challenge. Academically, it has taken the children aback, and you have to move in at a certain speed. And when you move in at that speed too, the child cannot move that speed because you look at what the child lost, because second term didn't even complete. The whole of third term for a particular class was not completed. And so now the child has been promoted, mass promotion. They have to finish that of the second term, which they didn't finish, and the third term. And then they're in a new class. It is a problem.
How much of a problem has it been? How have you coped with online learning, for example?
Yes, when we started online, most of the children were joining us. A class of about 40, you have only about 3 people. And when you ask the parents, they will tell you that, look, they don't have the money to buy the gadgets. Even when they buy the gadgets, how to even buy data was a bit of a problem. So we did a little bit of the online thing, and then we switched to hard copy where we printed questions, parents come, pick it up for their children. And we managed to actually make some gains in that field too. Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us. Your name?
Asante Emmanuel.
Asante Emmanuel. What do you teach at the Youngsters International School?
I teach English language.
How long have you been here?
Oh, for the past 5 years.
5 years. And what has it been like? I mean, handling all these children under COVID-19 and all the protocols to be observed. How has COVID impacted the learning, teaching experience?
The disease itself is quite an interesting one. And for that matter, when the school resumed earlier on, the attendance was not that encouraging because the parents were kind of scared. The fear was inside and outside. You could feel the attendance telling it. So in that score, it didn't really impact well on the numbering. So the attendance was challenged. But it comes to the classroom itself, the kids, having been informed of the kind of, the extent of the fear that they came to school with, it tells a lot about how they will absorb learning, consume understanding, and then impact what they have understood on paper. So it was quite challenging handling them.
Do you feel it has had an impact on grades? At least we've spoken to one or two who have said that on the back of COVID-19, of course, the time they stayed at home and coming back and with masks and all of that, it's impacted their grades a bit. Do you see that?
Yes, I do. You know, the kids had, I could say clearly, they have some learning loss to COVID. Staying home for 1 year is really a loss to learning. The brain said that if it relaxes for a long time without reading or without knowledge acquisition, what you have actually accumulated, you are bound to forget if you don't do repetition in over reading what you have learned before. Because we know that repetition creates deep and lasting impression on the mind. So if what you have learned is not repeated, you are likely to forget them. So it really impacted negatively on their academic performance.
Now, finally, moving forward, what do you think are some of the things that ought to be done, ought to be put in place generally to ensure that we can, well, say goodbye to COVID and also ensure that in our learning institutions, we get back to what we knew before so that children are not left out, they don't lose out?
Like you rightly said, follow the protocols is one of the key things that we ought to enforce, not only with the kids, but those facilitators among us. So that at least, the saying goes that cleanliness is next to godliness. To be able to stay away from disease, you have to go by whatever it is for you to do to stay away from that disease. So every disease and what you're supposed to do. So if you have to follow through with all the precautionary measures, we will say bye-bye to COVID.
Well, COVID has had its impact, and of course, children in schools have not been left out. And Ijilao is actually going to share her experience. Ijilao, how old are you?
I am 6 years old.
You're 6 years old. Which class are you in?
Class 1.
Class 1. And all through this time of COVID-19, how has it been like for you? Have you liked coming to school with COVID-19 and wearing a mask and all this?
Yes.
You have? So are you okay with wearing a mask all the time?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes.
Why do you think so?
Because sometimes I will get tired of wearing it, then I will remove it. And some small time I will wear it back again.
But you know the mask keeps you safe, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you feel when you're not able to play with your friends so much because of COVID-19?
I think someone will get one COVID-19 when someone cuts on the other person.
Okay, so you try to stay too close to your friends so you don't get COVID?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of anyone who has got COVID? Have you seen anyone who has got COVID? Do you know what happens to them?
Yes, they will die.
They will die. That's a very smart one, Ejilao, who's only 6 years old and in class 1. I wish you all the best, okay?
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Elsie Adufo Asapon.
Elsie, which class are you in?
I'm in class 4.
Class 4. Great. You've been back in school and you've had to wear a mask because of COVID and all of that. How has COVID-19 changed your life in school?
It has made playing hard, and if your teacher is saying something, you'll hardly hear it. So it makes us feel in essence. And when we are working, we have to work in twos and separates.
So it's made it difficult learning because sometimes you can't even hear the teacher well, and it affects your grades and exams.
Yes.
How about your relations with your friends? How has COVID impacted that? Are you still able to play like before?
No, we are not even supposed to hold hands and hug each other like first. Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I feel very sad and bad.
If you could wish COVID away, if you could get COVID to go away, would you do that?
Yes, I will start everything I used to do.
What do you think do you have any other siblings who are in school?
Yes.
Even at home, how has COVID impacted, your relations?
Even though we are siblings, we cannot hug and laugh with each other and hug. We need to social distance with each other.
What's your name?
Churchill David Lamptey.
Churchill David Lamptey.
Treasure David Lamptey.
Treasure David Lamptey. Which class are you in?
Class 5.
Okay. Treasure, how has COVID changed your life, especially in school?
Not much. Like, it has sometimes been disturbing my work with class, but not much.
Some of your friends have said that COVID has impacted their grades because sometimes they can't even hear the teacher well because of the mask and all of that. Is it same for you?
Yes, sometimes.
Have your grades dropped since COVID came and you returned to school?
No.
It's pretty much the same.
Yes.
What would you say? How do you feel generally about COVID-19? And what are your expectations? Would you have COVID go away?
Yes, I would have it go away. So that this world will be a free world and there will be nothing such as COVID and no diseases in the world. So that everybody will be free of harm.
But diseases have been with us practically throughout. We cannot wish all of them away. So in the meantime, we have to observe the protocols, wear our masks, wash our hands, sanitize, and all of that. And you do that always, don't you?
Yes.
Well, keep it up. Mr. Lukman has 3 children here at the Youngsters International School in Kukumlimle. But how exactly has COVID changed his life as a parent and that of his children? We find out. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Lukman.
And thank you, too, for the opportunity. The first thing is that parenting has changed drastically, primarily because if you are a working parent, now you have to tangle between working from home has come to stay, and then parenting equally is always here with parents. So the challenge is that, the stress has increased in the sense that you always have to harmonize working from home and taking care of children. Initially when school were on full-fledged, so you could make time while the children are in school, you could make time for yourself. But now, even children are back in school, but the challenges is still continuing. And then the reason is that you have to always come to pick them because of to try to avoid try to instill social distancing. Because once they close from school, you see them mingling with friends, with other strangers as well, which does not augur well for COVID prevention. So in that instance, so you see that you always have to find additional time, to harmonize with your work from your office and then taking care of the kids as well.
Financially, what has been the impact of COVID-19 on you as a parent in terms of dealing with your children?
It has its own financial ramification because now you have to spend money buying masks, you have to spend money buying sanitizers, which the school does not provide, and then which are additional resources that could have been used to help the advancement of the education of the children. So these are some of the issues that we parents are battling with.
At some point, finally, I know online studies came up and all of that. How was that for you? How was that experience?
Well, financial as well, you have to buy, personally, I have to buy a laptop. I have to buy 1 laptop and 2 notepads for my kids. Okay, so you could see the financial implications. And that's aside, once you are in class online, so once the class goes off, the children hasn't gotten that technical knowledge. So you have to run quickly from whatever you are doing. Even if you have a meeting online, you have to run quickly to come and then reschedule the child for another lessons. So these are the issues. But in all, we say that we have to learn from the good that COVID has brought us. In that, well, it has come to stay. Some of these issues has come to stay. So what are we going to do? Are we going to sit back, fold our arms, parents, the school, the PTA, and sit and say, well, it's now a new norm, so we have to go with it. So we have to think faster, because learning, as it is now, you can learn everywhere. The normal brick and mortar, maybe with time we have to do away with it. So how are we going to, so how is the government coming in? So these are some of the issues that we have to, envisage and see the way forward for our children and for we, the parents, as well.
Thank you very much for interacting with us, Mr. Lukman.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hammond, as a parent here at this school, How has life changed for you on the back of COVID-19?
COVID-19 has changed my life a lot because at first I don't like using car because of the fuel. So we use one car with my husband and then the kids. He drops us in the morning and then in the evening he picks us. So I'll come and pick the children in the afternoon with the passenger car. But now with the COVID-19, I have to use my own car because I'm scared of the passenger car. So it has changed my life a lot. And then the expenses, due to the COVID-19, we have to be using nose masks every day. We buy nose masks every day. And then the sanitizer and then the tissue every day. And then even the children to mingle with their friends. So I have to come early and pick them so that they will not play to go far beyond their distance. So I may say COVID-19 has changed. And then the online learning too, I have to get Wi-Fi in the shop so that they can do the online learning because the data, I couldn't bear it. So at least it has changed my life.
So finally, on that bit you said about some of the children not being able to mingle and all of that, we know it is part of the growth of children. It also impacts them in certain ways. Do you think this has affected your children in any way, not being able to mingle as freely, to play and all that?
Oh yes, it has affected them because at first I don't let them use phone. But now because I don't allow them to play a lot with their friends, I have to get them phones so that they'll use it to play and then at least learn with it. So, you know as kids, they sometimes go beyond their limits. You may think that they are learning with their phone, but before you realize it's different thing altogether. So at least.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hammond, for interacting with us. For you as a parent, how much has changed owing to COVID-19?
Well, since COVID came into this country, our educational system has changed in such a way that the government allowed the children to go and stay at home for barely over a year. And you see, and without not organizing any extra classes for them. So when the children came back from school, their curriculum has changed and the teachers need to load them with courses. You see, some of the things that we were supposed to learn in school when the COVID had not yet incepted, now the teachers are making them learn all those things. A typical example is that the free SHS system, when students will go to school for about 1.5 weeks and come and stay home for about 3 months, 4 months, and even when they go to school, they cannot cover all the syllabus that they are supposed to cover. Example is last week when one of the schools in the Volta region vacated. I got to know they spent 1 month, 2 weeks in school, and per the month syllabus that we were supposed to cover, they were able to cover only one subject, and they vacated and they came home. Now, when we are bringing down it to our primary schools, it's the same thing. For this school, I think the teachers are trying their possible best to catch up, and I'll give kudos to this school because when they were in the house, especially my kids, the school organized this online classes for the students. So they were teaching the students whilst they were in the house. So I think COVID has dealt very badly with the students, but for the youngsters, I think the teachers have really done really well. Yeah.
How many children do you have in this school, and how has it been like financially coping with all of them, online studies and all of that? It's been expensive, hasn't it?
Really, I have 3 kids here, 2 boys and a girl. And when they were in the house, in fact, when the school introduced those things, I personally came to the headmaster because he has been a friend. So I asked him, what are we doing as a parents? Are we paying fees? He said, no. We the parents, we have to take cost of the bundle that we use for the children, and the school will take care of the rest, which they did. And every day they have been consistent with their schools till schools reopened. Yeah. So I think I'll give a plus to the Untitled School, and I'll encourage them to keep it up because it is no other school that you have it. And I think paying for the fees and everything is moderate. I think the school authorities understand the parents when the parents have concerns concerning challenges of paying for their fees. And I think they make the parents paid by installments. So I think it is a plus for the school, and I'll urge them to continue. And once we are in the COVID era and we know everything has gone backwards, school fees is a challenge now. I'll urge them to dialogue with the parents, for the parents to know how best they are, so that we all together make this school a very formidable one.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond, for interacting with us. And this is the real story of COVID-19 and how it has impacted parents, pupils, and even teachers. This is the face of COVID-19. Benjamin Akakpo for JoyNews.
Well, so that's the reality for most parents, school fees. To also think about the fact that the schools went on a 2 weeks break and they have to return and pay the same amount of school fees. So painful for a lot of parents to deal with. Lots of changes. And Ben, the parents are essentially just outlining some of the challenges that many of us go through. I could relate when one of them said, I pick my kids very early because I don't want them to stay and play beyond a certain time. Yeah.
I mean, so many realities. A lot of them were talking about the challenges of online studying. I think Mr. Lukman was talking about the fact that whatever he's doing, sometimes he has to shuttle between his work, whether he's working virtually or at work, to have access to his children and, ensure that maybe they are done with this session virtually. He moves them on to the next session and all of that. So there's a lot that must be done, not to talk of the cost he was talking about. He had to get a laptop and 2 notebooks. For the children. I'm talking of, notepads for the kids and all of that. So the dynamics, it cuts across from school fees to online studying to buying a mask every day, sanitizer every day, and all of that. It's quite a lot. It's taken a toll, and that's why we all ought to be responsible so we can get past this phase.
Yeah, the last parent mentioned the collaboration with the school and how they listen. I tell you what, not all schools listen so well. Not all the schools will collaborate. There's a particular school where a parent was telling me the owner of the school mentioned to them in an online meeting with the parents. Some parents were calling for them to do something about the school fees. And she said, well, use washing powder, for example. If you go into a supermarket, there is a very popular one. The price is high, but there are other ones as well. You choose the one that you feel like
that's what this parent was told.
That's what they were all told on the platform. So it's more like if you think you can't, you can get out of the school. So not all schools are that nice in terms of, so find one that will accommodate you, especially within these times.
Exactly.
Don't force yourself to stay in a school where things are so difficult. The owner will not even listen to you.
And one thing I found out speaking to, the parents, it appears, at least on that angle, they appear to be comfortable. The way the school has related with them, and the school seems to be very forthcoming with, hey,
it's a
okay, so these are your problems. Let's accommodate them. You want to pay in installments. Let's accommodate them. I know another school like that. And this was right at the period after the lockdown. And they were not tolerating anything. In fact, parents had to pay huge sums of money. I know a friend who's also in media who had to pick her 2 children out of that institution.
Yeah. If you can't just get out. Because it's just going to get worse. And it's a partnership. It's not like if you can't get out. Yeah. So Ben, thank you for highlighting on this issue. I guess many parents will be grateful that this is coming. This is coming out, especially at this time. Schools are back. Some of them are back. Mine will go back next week, and we've just been on break for 2 weeks, and we have to pay the school fees. But, we'll deal with it. Okay, so from one very important conversation to another. In March this year, a mass inoculation program began, and next week the country will begin administering the second doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. And that's why this research that we're going to talk about pretty shortly is really important. It was a survey conducted just 2 weeks after vaccines arrived here in Ghana, first in February. They assess the willingness to receive or not to receive the vaccine. And this was a research done by the University of Southampton on vaccine acceptance, as I've just said. So let me introduce to you my guests that I will be engaging. Keshev Atembler is Executive Director, Pax Africa Partner, Pandemic Support Group. There you are. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on the AM show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Great. So first of all, this was carried out even before we started receiving the doses here in Ghana. So I would like for you to just outline the key questions that you put to the respondents.
So the key question actually is about the hesitancy, whether they would want to take it or not. But then we measured that against various background details of the respondents, including their ages, the gender, their communities that they live in, whether they are employed or unemployed at the time of the study, their religious backgrounds, their political beliefs or associations, and many of those. But we measured that against the hesitancy because our interest in this study was to look at the drivers for or against vaccine hesitancy in the country in support of decisions that the authorities would be making.
Let's start with gender. I was curious to read your findings there. I thought, okay, men and women, what's that got to do with whether or not we want to take the vaccine?
So that is a very interesting one also that we noted. And what we followed up trying to understand was that the male gender is known generally to be more assertive, to be they know what they would want, having access. And this is also put within the context of Ghana, where the culture comparatively between the male and female genders, women are more, they want to control what they say, how they express things. Maybe not they wanting to control, but they are not generally assertive compared to the male gender. And this is something that we have all known about. There are efforts to transform the gender space actually because of some of these things. So when we saw this coming out in the findings, it was quite interesting to know that it is. And the gap is actually, it's quite huge about, so we did a multi-varied analysis. And so we put the two genders against all the other drivers. And we noticed that the females were about 97% more likely to express hesitancy than the males. And that's quite huge. That's quite huge. So I can share personal experience of this also with you, where I had to encourage my mother and my sister, when the vaccines came and the doses were being given out, they were quite hesitant, and I can tell you till date they have not gone for it. But myself, I have gone for it. I know a few colleagues. That's not to say that women are not taking the vaccines. Yes, a good number of them are taking them. And the good news from this study actually is that a large proportion of the population will actually want to take the vaccine. That's about 82.4%. The population would want to take the vaccine. So it is a smaller number, which is about 9.7% who are expressing this hesitancy. Okay, so it is this small number of colleagues, citizens who are expressing hesitancy that we had to now interrogate further. And so the statistics that we are producing from this study are mostly about those expressing the hesitancy, not the larger group that will be okay to take the vaccine.
Sure. I can also understand religious and community type, people who feel strongly about religion also being hesitant. but political parties. So there was NDC, NPP again brought into this research. Tell us about the findings.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate that they're going that way, but you can equally understand them, considering from last year when the pandemic started and the various that's NDC, NPP were looking for how to deal with the situations. The government put up the COVID structures, the fund, and all of those, but that was an exclusive approach, without necessarily looking at bringing the various stakeholders into the space. And that was the NDC also trying to do something on their own, which was quite unfortunate for us as researchers, because we would wish for the ecosystem for evidence or knowledge production, research production to be, or research uptake actually, to be collaborative. Let's build a common space, So if there is a situation, in this case, a pandemic that we need to manage, we don't take exclusive approaches in that regard. So with the things that happened last year, the NDC forming its own COVID team and all that, certainly the alliances are there, vertically. So there are people who would naturally want to listen to their leaders, being the NDC, much more than the government structures, And so even though the party as a NDC not taking any position against the vaccines, the fact that they are not in active, participation in this space creates some doubts within the minds of their followers, and they would naturally want to hesitate and see how things will go first. Maybe some people will die initially. After those things happen, then they would want to refrain from it. But it was still good to see the president, for instance, taking that initiative to take the vaccine at the very onset.
And of course, we also saw the flag bearer in the last elections for the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, also publicly take the vaccine together with some other NDC officials. But of course, this research was, before we saw all this play out. So how many? Of course, you reached out to over 2,000 persons. How many NPP people were hesitant, and how many NDC people were hesitant?
So proportion-wise, we had. Do I have the figures here? So we're looking at a big gap in here that the NDC, for instance, has about 42.9% hesitancy space in there, and the NPP colleagues in there had about 39.9. That's even in the negative. So it's a difference that speaks to the entire. But this is actually for the bigger group, not just about the hesitance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, it was also revealed, through this research that those who were harder hit were more likely to be hesitant.
Exactly. So when you say those who were harder hit, you mean financially?
No, this is not. So my understanding, and you've got to correct me, I thought those who were more exposed, who were likely to get COVID-19, were more hesitant in taking the doses.
So there are two sides of that. One is the financial, those who were financially hit, in that, they had their incomes distorted and all that. They rather expressed lesser hesitancy to that, because they knew the effects that it was having on them. So they were willing to push forward. And then there were those also who have been, who said they were complying with the protocols, those who use more of the sanitizers, the washing of hands, the masks and all that. They were also, willing to take the vaccine because they understand the effects that it is having on them, just like their colleagues. Those who had financial effects of those. So they understand the effects, the potential effects of the virus on them. So they were willing to take the jabs.
How much of these findings eventually reflected in the acceptability of COVID-19 vaccination?
So for now, the study actually we did the first round in August, and the acceptance level was lower. That's in August of last year. We had about 63.2% of the respondents being being willing to take the vaccine. Now, when we did the second round in March, the acceptance rate had gone higher, which is about 82.4%. So we can see some progression, some improvement in acceptance. And what we're suggesting now is that if we can put measures in place to do targeted communication, to those groups who are expressing hesitancy, then we could further increase the numbers, the willingness to take the jabs.
So what do we have to, of course, you've given one recommendation there. We're getting ready to take the second doses already. There's been some issues surrounding this one, of course, because of where it is coming from. Again, also because we know that there is an expiry date to it. The reason we've got to take it in good time. People who gladly took the first dose are still not very clear with these details coming out with the second doses. So what do we have to do as a country? What must be done?
So first and foremost, I believe we need to procure as much as possible more of the doses. Because those who took the first jabs had not received the second ones, and there are other studies that even suggest that the recommendation is to give more space between the jabs. So the delay, to some extent, will actually be to the advantage of Ghana. The delay we have experienced from the procurement may actually be an advantage to us, but the delay shouldn't be too much. So once we have this about 350,000 doses arriving, it's still not enough because the first ones we had were more than this.
600,000.
So we just need to administer them as soon as possible, so that those we can also start with the first timers, those who are yet to take their first doses.
Can I go back to when you say the delays to our advantage? Kindly explain.
Yes, so we noticed that the timelines given by Ghana Health Services to have an interval of about 6 weeks. In between the doses, and this plays out that the recommendation is actually between 6 and then 12 weeks, interval. So, and there have been studies conducted to see which of these, timelines would work better, and it seems to suggest that the wider, the time, the gap in between, the better the effect in the protection cover that the individual will have. And so we may just want to, that's how come I mentioned that it could actually be in our advantage, with this delay. I, for instance, was due to take my second dose on the 2nd of May. And once that has not been taken, scientifically, it suggests that I'm likely to have a better cover with the next dose that I have, just that it shouldn't go beyond the 12 weeks timeline.
Okay, that's interesting. So you also say that the opportunity should be given to first timers. I know how in the first phase they needed to let some specific people take it so it could boost the confidence or encourage other people too. And I thought we would go the same way. People are waiting to see if after you take the second dose, you still be okay. But you have a different strategy.
So yes, I think that is okay. The plan that government put out to get some key officials to take them, from the beginning, including health officers, because they are frontline officers, of course, and we need to protect them like our soldiers. They are our soldiers, our real soldiers in this time, and others. So that is the plan put out by the Ghana Health Service is just adequate. What we're looking at is more of the governance space for communication. We need to to employ multiple stakeholders in this communication. We need to see NDC and NPP, for instance, working together to communicate to their people, to address the political, driving forces there. We need to see our religious. Another study conducted by the Ghana Health Service, also in March, suggests that amongst the various professional groups that they surveyed, the religious leaders were the least, group willing to accept the vaccine. So if this is the situation, then their own followers are equally, likely not to take them, because they will stand on the platform, on the podiums to preach and then to send out the communication messages. So if they, as the religious leaders, are not willing to take it, then their own narrative, their own messaging will be against taking it, which will not for our target of reaching about 20 million people by close of year.
Well, Keshav, thank you so much for your time. He's the Executive Director of PAX Africa Partner Pandemic Support Group. We're grateful that you could share details of this research examining drivers of COVID-19 hesitancy here in Ghana. We're super grateful. Still to come, we have a conversation on Fix the Country. Ben is here. We've been talking about we've been talking about the vaccines. You've been talking about how your time has essentially passed. But Keshav is assuring us, according to a research that's been done, that the longer the better.
Oh, well, we've always known this. I mean, from Dr. Bediako to Dr. Achiano and others who have spoken to the issue, they've said that there's a 12-week window.
Yes.
If you get it within that time frame, you're good to go. And in fact, if you don't get it right so like I said, I should have got mine on the 3rd. I've missed that now. Today's the 10th. If you get it a bit later, it is better. But if you go outside of the 12-week window, that's where the problem is, because then you might have to start the cycle all over again.
Yeah. So those of us who are due to take it within the 6-8 weeks, it's actually apparently better that you're taking it beyond that. But of course, we're not crossing the 12-week line. Let's get on to our next conversation on Fix the Country. That protest that went online, of course, because of an injunction that had been secured by the Ghana Police Service, or may I say, by the state. We've got a conversation on the back of that. We'll remind you of what some people did. Did Ghana Police take over the protest or not? What has been achieved really, and what is next? These are questions that will be answered after this. Fix the Country. That's a general call, if you like. It started by a group, and it got a lot of people protesting in diverse ways on social media yesterday. That was the encouragement from the conveners to the people, especially after the Ghana Police Service secured an injunction stopping them from hitting the streets. And so they took the campaign to social media. We'll be sharing with you some of the things that people are calling on the government to fix. But Hadi Yakubu is a fighter general with the Economic Fighters League. He joins us for a conversation. A very good morning to you, Hadi. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
Great.
And thank you for having me.
Sure. There were a lot of questions in terms of what exactly you wanted the government to fix. And I guess you've thrown it out to the people. So come up with a placard and state what you want fixed. How have you been managing with the pressure from all over?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to all your viewers. It's been a very heavy past few days with media calls and, talking to several people on the ground and doing all these. But it is worth it. I mean, if you look at the energy that was shown yesterday and the momentum, you would see that there is a general yearning, from the young people of this country for Ghana to be fixed. Because clearly the promise of a better society, the promise of a country that is capable of showing to the rest of the world that if given the chance, we are capable of managing our own affairs, has not manifested in the sort of governance and economic management that we've seen over the period. Our fathers have seen theirs, our grandfathers have seen theirs and gone, our fathers have come to see theirs. We now have to think about the sort of society that we want to build for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. Every generation, as one of our prominent revolutionaries will say, every generation has a vision, has the responsibility to carve a vision for itself. And it is its responsibility to either honor or betray that vision. So this is our time to also put minds to work and make sure we define the sort of society that we want. So yeah, the pressure was there, a lot of working, you barely sleep, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
How was the protest yesterday, by the way? Because I know the original plan was to get people to step out physically, but that did not happen.
Yeah, that did not happen because we were respecting the court order. The court granted an injunction on Thursday to the Ghana Police Service, preventing us from protesting. So we were respecting the court order. But we are law-abiding citizens, and therefore we respected the court order, no matter how preposterous it might be. So we didn't gather physically. We sent out information to all the teeming young people across the country to do so in their homes and on their streets and in their ghettos. And wherever they find themselves, they should take the protest there. So in a way, if you look at it, what the Ghana police and the state wanted to prevent, they actually gave more oxygen and led to ease decentralization to various parts of the country when initially it was just going to be in Accra. So that's how it went, and it was you should have seen the passion and emotion with which people spoke on videos and expressed themselves on placards. It shows the love that the young people of this country have for the country, and the responsibility they want to take upon themselves to not just sit down and be recipients of whatever comes their way, but be active participants in defining what sort of society that Ghana ought to be in this day and age.
As organizers and leaders of this protest, this hashtag FixTheCountry, were you surprised at the heavy presence of police at the Independence Square, essentially guarding or policing a court injunction?
I was not surprised. If you've been doing this for a while, you would know the modus operandi of the police already. And sometimes people like to see the police as isolated from the systems and structures that we are complaining about. But in actual fact, the police and military are not isolated. They are the violent arm of the state that the state uses in oppressing the masses. So I was not surprised. A lot of people were actually. And one of the main talking points that came up was the fact that the police found a lot of water, to put in their tanks, to go and wait for us at the Independence Square when people were protesting about lack of water in their homes. So if you have water to put in your tanks to wait for citizens to spray on them, but you don't have the resources to provide water for people to drink. And so it shows you the kind of priorities that the system has. It will rather spend resources in trying to suppress the voices of the people than spend those resources, which resources are coming from the people anyway, spend those resources in seeing to the welfare and well-being of the people. And this is what young people are not happy about. And we need to build a more compassionate society that caters to the well-being and basic necessities of them. We can have a country that prioritizes the luxury of a few to the necessities of all of us. That is not a sustainable sort of arrangement, and we need to change that.
Hadi, let's talk about results, because you achieved something yesterday. I mean, you achieved a lot. Maybe one of the ones that we can easily point to is the fact that the finance minister came out. He had his own hashtag, by the way, Fix the Economy. And he addressed some of the challenges, and he said that they were fixing it. So what do you make of the fact that the finance minister came out to address some of the economic issues?
Well, I mean, I think we can all appreciate the fact that the finance minister came to talk about this and acknowledge the work that young people were doing virtually. But we need also to look at the form and content of the address. First of all, it is very interesting that the day that we chose to do virtual protests because of the state's intransigence in preventing us from doing a physical process, the finance minister also does a press conference, sort of to take the media shine out of the protest that the young people of this country were planning, and then center himself in the conversation in a way that sought to, even though unsuccessfully, deny the people the sort of space that was needed to articulate their concerns to the system. So, we think that, I mean, by and large, there is not enough listening, and you could see that from the responses that the finance minister gave. First of all, this hashtag is not about fix the economy. It is fix the country. Fix the country is a broader thing that goes beyond just the economy. The economy is a small microcosm of the country. There are so many things that are broken in this country that need fixed. In fact, the whole country is broken. And it is not broken because of just a few years of actions or inactions. Yes, it is broken because of the compounding and the accumulation of actions and inactions, very reckless actions and inactions by successive governments over the period. And then these actions come about as a result of oppressive and non-compassionate structures that have been put in place right at the founding of the so-called Fourth Republic. So we need to look at these things. So So whereas the finance minister would come and tell us about 1D, 1F and all of those things are appreciated. We appreciate his gesture, but we need to look at the form and content that he chose. And we think that it unfortunately did not show much of, if people are talking, right? You say you've done all these things.
Hello, Hadi, and I'm afraid Hadi's network is just been cut off.
What are you saying? If you've done all these things and people say they are still suffering, is it not time to listen to them and find out, so if I've done all these and people say they are still suffering, what is causing the suffering? You are not prepared to listen. You just come and rehash all these things and then make new promises. Already there's a deficit of confidence in promises of successive governments because they make those promises and it is hard, to point to concrete fix, keeping of those promises. And then you come and make new promises on top of that.
So, Hadi, are you saying, for instance...
It shows a lack of listening to you.
Yeah, Hadi, the finance minister, for instance, says that I am working with the Minister for Water and Sanitation to immediately ensure potable water to areas of crucial need. Secondly, I'm working with the Minister of Roads and Highways, Transport and Interior to address congestion along the major highways. Thirdly, we're fast-tracking the implementation of the $200 million Jobs and Skills Program, an economic transformation program to enhance job creation significantly. These doesn't mean anything to you?
No, I mean, it would be probably unfair to say these don't mean anything. But the fact of the matter is that these things are things. I mean, if you talk about employment and jobs programs, I can enumerate plenty of them from 2000 up to date that the successive governments say they have done, and all of them can point to. If you talk about programs to deal with water problems or to deal with road problems, I can enumerate plenty of them from 2000 up to date that successive governments say they have implemented, to bring results, but the same issues remain. So it sends the signal that no matter which government is in power, there are certain things that don't change. Why don't they change? Why are they not changing? And that brings us to the structural issues that we have been talking about, that need, and first of all, these conversations, I think there needs to be some frank and honest appreciation and acknowledgement that some sort of issues exist, because the constant rehashing of the things, okay, we've done it. I think one of the issues with our politics is for incumbent governments and opposition to look at every sort of citizen outburst as a form of political action that they can take partisan advantage of. So anything from the citizens is construed as coming from people who do not have any sympathy for the government, and therefore, the government wants to tell them what it has done, and tell them again, and tell them. We it's not like we don't have information. We have information, but if people have information about all these things and they are still, talking about the hardships on them. If you're talking about 1D, 1F, and somebody is concerned about the fact that now his cement prices of cement have gone up so much so that he can't afford. Somebody is concerned about the fact that fuel increases have come to compound transport costs and prices of goods and services. I mean, how do you address that with telling the person that you are implementing 1D1? So there needs to be a much more compassionate ear in listening to the plight of people. And that's what we've been saying. The whole structure of the country is not sustainable.
Okay, I have to apologize there. So Hadi's connection is gone off again, but he will reconnect with us. He's fighter general with the Economic Fighters League. Hadi, we just lost you briefly. So, you know, your hashtag FixTheCountry has been trending well over a week on Twitter. With yesterday's protests, is that it? Are we done with FixTheCountry? Of course, there is a court's injunction. We know that you are going to the Supreme Court. The date has been given for next month. But in terms of the protests, is that it?
Obviously not. Obviously not. What you will notice is that the virtual space is a 24-hour space. So it is open 24 hours non-stop. People are posting 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and the FixTheCountry thing, it's an ongoing thing. And if young people are saying the country should be fixed and the country is not being fixed, it cannot be it. They have to continue to raise their voices about the things that need to be fixed, and therefore get the things to be fixed. One of the issues that are important in terms of fixing the country in general and not just the economy is to look at the soul of the republic, which is the 1992 Sakawa Constitution, which did he
say Sakawa?
Puts a lot of power.
Hadi, did I hear you say Sakawa?
Yes, the 1992 Constitution. I mean, at the Economic Fighters League, we call it a Sakawa Constitution. Sakawa because it is a very deceptive document that purports to give power to the citizens. But in actual fact, in its operation and implementation, what it has done is to put a lot of power in the powers that be, the executive arm of government especially, but also to all those other players in the governance of the country. And, you know, deny citizens the power. You saw what happened yesterday. Even merely to go and protest, people cannot. But, you know, so where is the power?
Yeah, but Hadi, this is a constitution that we've been using well over 20 years.
That's the problem. It's a constitution that has been used for almost 3 decades, and there has been no substantive change to it, even though everybody acknowledges the deleterious defects. Everybody acknowledges the deleterious defects in the constitution, but no substantive changes have been made to the constitution for almost 3 decades. So that shows that those who have the power to do something about the constitution benefit from the rot, and that is why the country is broken, and that's why we need to fix it, and that's why we need to look at the soul of the republic, which is the Sakawa Constitution.
So wait, Hadi,
structure and systemic issues, we are not going to go anywhere. We're going to
Hadi, I would appreciate it. Hadi, please listen to me. I would appreciate it if we stick to the 1992 Constitution instead of the Sakawa Constitution, because the Constitution as we have it is not called Sakawa Constitution, but the 1992
But I have the right to describe it, don't I?
Yeah, but you're on my platform. And
some would have described it as a progressive constitution. Yes. Some have said it is libertarian constitution. Some have said, I also have the right to describe it.
Yeah, but what we're doing on this platform is also educating. When you pick the constitution, you won't see Sakawa written on it. It is the 1992 Constitution. I think I'm more comfortable.
The same way, if you
I'm more comfortable if
you will not see progressive constitution or libertarian constitution on it.
But nobody.
People have the right to describe the constitution the way they deem fit.
Which I appreciate.
Right?
Which I appreciate.
If you analyze it,
which I appreciate, Hadi.
And that's how you.
I appreciate that, Hadi, except that there's no other person on this platform who has used progressive in describing the constitution. So please, let's just stick to that. and we will be fine. We're not analyzing. You're talking about
people who have used it for joy.
Exactly, but in this,
you only want the positive.
No, Hadi,
you only want the positive.
Okay, so Hadi, let's make progress. I'm saying that in this particular conversation that I'm having with you, there's no other person with us who is describing it in another way. I get the defects that you say the Constitution has, but I think I'm more comfortable in terms of what the Constitution is. It is the 1992 Constitution. You can, talk about the things that you're not happy with it. I would appreciate it. So are you saying, in effect, that one of the things that you're also calling for, as you call for the Fix the Country, is also the Constitution?
Well, look, people have been calling for the Constitution's overhaul for a very long time. And one of the things, for instance, that came out in the hashtags, if you go through them, is the issue of ex gratia, for instance. Why would you have in a constitution, a select few group of people who take something that is akin to pension every 4 years? They come and take it and they go back to the same work, and they do 4 years, they take this, they take it, they go back to the same work. When somebody can work as a nurse or a teacher for 30 years and only earn a paltry sum as his or her pension, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't build a sustainable, compassionate society, right? So there are certain things that that have, to command our attention. And if those things command our attention, we will see that we will be quite close to where we want to be. But we cannot continue to do the same things and expect different results.
Okay, just finally on this, what would make you begin to think that you're being listened to, particularly by this government?
Well, first of all, I think there is a need to stop these shenanigans of trying to stop the process or derail it in any way. First, when the Fix the Country hashtag started trending, you saw what came up: fix yourself. Very ridiculous hashtag, fix yourself. Then came we are fixing it. Then came several. Then they started forging documents. They forged a statement on our letterhead and said that we were dissociating ourselves from the other conveners, which was not true. They called us to go and meet IGP, which was then directed to meet National Security Minister and other ministers. Then, whilst the meeting was going on, they sent the police to court to go and secure an injunction. So all of these things are things that are meant to derail the expression of the people's frustrations. You don't communicate a message of listening if you do these kinds of things. So first of all, that thing has to end. Secondly, it is important to stop this attempt of saying we are doing this, we've done this, as if to sound like, and then even doing that in comparison to previous government. So making it an NDC, MPP sort of. NDC and MPP are two sides of the same coin. They are made up, those people at the top, they are made up of the same class of people who have sort of ganged up to amass wealth for themselves, wealth, power, and influence.
That's some allegation. That's some allegation that that is some huge allegation you're making there. What do you have to back that allegation that you're making, that they are up there to amass wealth for themselves?
Oh, you just have to go and look at the Auditor General's report and see all those things that have been coming year after year.
Yeah, but
all those people who have been caught to have done A, B, C, D, what has happened to them?
First of all, again, Hadi, on this allegation that you're making, by the way, I am disassociating myself from it, and by way of that, the station, because these are not allegations that we can back with any evidence. But if somebody has not been condemned by the court, who are you to point to Auditor General and say because of
no,
that,
you asked
they're guilty
me
of
for
this?
what I have to back, and I'm backing. I think you're not.
Hello, Hadi. Your line is going bad, unfortunately, and it's just when we got to this crucial point of, and you're back, Hadi. So, Hadi, I'm saying that you're making some wild allegations here, and I'm asking for what you have to back that. But I'm also mindful of the fact that it is only a court that can pronounce somebody guilty. So if it hasn't, you can't point to the Auditor General necessarily in terms of the allegation that you're making.
No. Please wait. I mean, this idea of let's be fine and fit and not try to call a spade is not going to lead us anywhere. There have been serious issues of, even your own station has broadcast a lot of investigative pieces led by Manasseh Azure Awuni and the other fine investigative journalists that you have in multimedia about how people are conniving to steal money from the state, and nothing has happened to them. If somebody has stolen money, we need to call it what it is. It is stealing. Why are we trying to be fine and fit and try to use euphemisms that only lead us to conceal the crimes against the country that we are trying to fight against? I don't think it does us any good. But I mean, not to detract from the conversation we are having, I believe that the fundamental issues that need to be tackled need a broader conversation beyond just the economy, beyond just a shopping list of things that have been done or being done, or that a certain group wants to be done, but look at the country holistically and fix it.
All right. Okay, well, Hadi, I'm not sure this will be the last time that we'll be talking for as long as the hashtag is trending and issues come out of it. We will certainly call on you again. Hadi Yakubu is...
Thank you very much.
Fighter General. So what do you do as Fighter General, by the way?
Well, I manage the operations of the league.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. He's with the Economic Fighters League. We're talking about the National Science and Maths Quiz 2021. Infantipim and Infantiman schools are in action today. Maxwell Agbagba is in Cape Coast. We will put the spotlight there when we return.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, from Fix the Country and fighting for what some people say they want, I'll tell you about another fight. It's actually a fair competition, and it's all happening in the National Science and Math Quiz. Interestingly, Infantipim and Infantiman, yes, the Butcher boys and the side girls are taking up the competition. We cross over live to Maxwell Agbagba, who will be telling us more from Cape Coast. Maxwell, if you can hear me, what's the latest that you can report in respect of this?
Well, Benjamin, like you can see behind me, the stage is set. Right about now, we're waiting for the contestants to get seated, and then we set the ground running with the the central region, I should say, qualifies for the National Science and Maths Quiz. We know sometime last week, still in the southern zone, we spent time in the Greater Accra region where 9 schools qualified for the 2021 National Championship scheduled to take place later this year. So 9 schools plus we have some seeded schools already. They will be joining, plus 4 seeded schools. They'll be joining, making 13 schools, and then they'll be joining. They'll be coming from the Greater Accra region. Now, we are coming to find out which schools would qualify, from the central region for the national competition. Now, it will interest you to know that for the regional qualifiers, we have Infant School. They will start their journey right today in this room. Shortly, I'll give you the contest that they'll be taking part in. We also have Infantiman girls. They would also be starting their journey right from this room. We have Asin State College. Asin State College, we know, in the 2020 competition, they put up a marvelous performance. In fact, Asin State College was the reason we did not have Infantiman girls in the national competition in 2020. But they couldn't make it to the elimination stages, so they would have to start their journey right from the regional level. So on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to have the regional qualifiers, and then on Wednesday and Thursday, we'll have the regional championship right here in this room. Then for the regional championship, we're going to see St. Augustine's College, we're going to see Infant School, all of them, contest in this building. We know that in the 2019 competition, when the regional championship started in the central region, St. Augustine's College actually won that regional championship and then subsequently went ahead to win the 2020 competition. Presec Legon also emulated that in the 2020 championship, they won and then went ahead to win the national championship. So a lot of things to look out for. But here in Central Region, there's real competition here, and we're looking forward to all of that. But let me quickly run you through the contests for today, starting with the fourth contest for the day. We have Infant School. Infant School against Swedru School of Business. We have Jasi SHS, and then we have Feteman SHS, and then Chifu Herman Senior High Technical School, and then Enyan Main Senior High School. Now, Infant Senior High School, we know that in the 2020 competition, they were kicked out of the national competition at the 1/8 stage. They couldn't qualify to the quarterfinals, and that is why they are starting their journey from the regionals. In fact, I remember in that contest against Kumasi Academy, Kumasi Academy had 53 points. Infant School just managed about 35 points, and then St. Mary's SHS had 30 points. Today, we'll see what they can do in this room. We'll see what they'll be able to do, in this room. And then we also have Eguafwe Brame SHS, Edinaman SHS, JEA Mills SHS, Siddiq SHS, Ogwa Senior High Technical School, Chifo Praso Senior High School, Contest 3. And then Contest 2, we have University Practice SHS, we have the CRC SHS, Nyakrom Senior High Technical School, Infantiman Girls Senior High School, and then Namanra Community Day Senior High School. We know that in the 2020 competition, like I mentioned earlier, Asin State College made it impossible for Infantiman girls to get to the national competition. This year, we want to see if they can make it to the national competition. And we've heard a lot that the girls are really determined, they're optimistic that they're going to make it. We'll see whether that will happen here in this room. But the first contest to take place today, we have Asin State College, Abakrampa Senior High Technical School, Mankesim Senior High Technical School, Academy of Christ the King, Efutu Senior High School, and then Mando Senior High Technical School. That will be the first contest to take place. But all eyes are on Infantipim School and then Infantiman Girls Senior High School. We're waiting to see how it pans out here in this room.
Well, Maxwell Agbaba bringing us up to speed there. And of course, we're waiting to see how things will pan out as they lock horns. This will be a clash of brains, intellectual dueling. And of course, we'll cross over to you later in the day to find out how exactly the cookie crumbles. Thank you very much, Maxwell Agbaba, all the way in Cape Coast, reporting on that bit. We have a lot more action coming your way right before we wrap at 9 o'clock. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.